For years, they were mocked, they were dismissed, and they were called paranoid, unstable, or just delusional. It's not that simple anymore, folks.
An estimated 10,000 people around the world are all reporting the exact same terrifying experience.
Electronic harassment, synthetic telepathy, voice-to-skull technology. Chances are you haven't heard of these terms, but after searching the internet, I found dozens of websites dedicated to the phenomenon, residents who say they're victims.
We are T.I.s, targeted individuals.
They say they're being monitored, manipulated, and even tortured.
This is not a joke. This is not science fiction.
Because people know nothing about mind control. They don't know that your thoughts can be changed.
Through the internet, they validated each other's experiences.
The question is getting a lot harder to ignore. What if the people known as targeted individuals, or T.I.s, are not simply imagining everything they describe? What if some of these testimonies are pointing to something much darker? Something more advanced and widespread than most of us are willing to face? What if this is no longer just speculation or fringe?
I am an 8-year victim survivor of assaults by directed energy weapons. The torture I've experienced consists of body overheating, body extremely cold, seizures, heart pain, earaches, itching behind eyes, burning behind eyes, swelling, headaches, involuntary movement of my limbs, exhaustion, speeding and heart racing, hair coming out by the handfuls as if I've had chemotherapy, mind paralysis, being hypnotized or placed in a trance-type state, being tracked by a drone or satellite, controlled dreams, sleep deprivation, V2K, which is voice to skull, projected sound, extreme muscle spasms, and extreme muscle cramps, being made to fall down, blue circles around the pupils of my eyes, and I'm here and you can look at them if you like. Low frequency noises in my home, high frequency noises in my home, sexual stimulation. Numerous electrical appliances in my home are destroyed. 4 computers, 2 fax machines, 7 telephones. I am watched in my home 24 hours a day and followed around everywhere I go, though I do not have a criminal history.
The evidence, no intentional attack, yet what I'm hearing from Mr. Zaid, Mr. Grozov, is that there's a possibility that something is out there attacking us, especially in Homeland. What are your thoughts?
My personal thoughts
As an intelligence officer.
is that I agree with them. My personal opinions is that this is a global campaign, and it includes attacking us here at home. Is that this is a global campaign, and it includes attacking us here at home. Is that this is a global campaign, and it includes attacking us here at home.
We're learning that yesterday's fringe is today's reality.
Hi, my name is Mark Williams, and I'm doing this video today as a full testimonial to the abuses that have occurred to me.
I have to be careful what I say here, so let me say this.
And if I can, say what you can. And if you gentlemen feel better talking about this in a more secure setting,
I'll start by saying this.
We can work on that as well.
Congressman, thank you for the question. Give me 20 minutes in a skiff and I'll convince all of you. I know where the bodies are buried. I know the cabinets to look in, the questions to ask, and the people to subpoena. I will say that this is a global campaign and it's focused on attacking our people.
Hotel or safe house trying to get some rest when suddenly you feel a pressure in your head. Weirder still, as you stand up and move about the room, the sensation changes. Certain places in your physical space make it worse, certain ones make it better. Are you under attack? The cluster of symptoms I'm discussing has an official name, Anomalous Health Incidents, AHIs, which is about as descriptive as unidentified flying object. But you probably know this condition by its original moniker, Havana Syndrome.
The age of invisible warfare has been here since the days of Noah, and it's making a comeback.
It was 2016 when the first cases were reported by U.S. personnel stationed in Cuba, though over the years, U.S. government employees stationed in China, Europe, and even Washington, D.C. have reported similar symptoms. The case count rose into the hundreds and above 1,000. The news media was quick to suggest that there was a foreign enemy involved. If you look at the headlines at the time, it appeared almost as a given that this syndrome was due to some kind of weapon.
I've been meaning to do this for a while, and I just wanted to go on record and basically give a full record, a full account of my experiences.
While I was in the service, I found out that there is an ongoing, non-consensual human experiment, and it's testing a human-machine interface weapon. There's a group here in the United States that are non-consenting human subjects for the testing of this weapon, and they're calling themselves targeted individuals.
We are seeing an alarming rate of complaints of use of electromagnetic weapons, microwave auditory effects, silent sound spectrum, EEG cloning, which has taken the lab out of the laboratory and into the home. Most of these, from the research that we've reviewed, can be done remotely. It seems to be more weapons research than medical research. I've personally corresponded with upwards of 1,500 victims, all complaining of identical complaints from every state in the nation.
They're being accused of being crazy. They're being accused of being paranoid and schizophrenic to completely cover up what is in fact a social engineering program and a covert research and development program for some of the most sophisticated and advanced technology that the world has ever seen.
But as the cases increased, the case for the mysterious ray gun hypothesis diminished. Would countries all around the world be sharing this technology? Beyond that, what was the purpose of a weapon like this? It didn't kill its target. It didn't really incapacitate them, although some affected individuals had symptoms persist into the long term. Was it just supposed to, mess with us?
And I would encourage any other victim out there to do exactly the same and give a full detailed account over time of what's occurred to them also, so we can start to build up a real bank of evidence.
The idea of secret weapons became relegated to the tinfoil hat crowd. There are, of course, other explanations for the syndrome besides ray guns of unknown provenance. The individuals affected are under a tremendous amount of stress.
I would like to start, and the first question I would like to answer is, so how did this, I want to explain how this started to me, so how this started for me.
Prior to the anomalous health incident, those who would go on to develop Havana Syndrome had higher rates of depression, tinnitus, and peripheral neuropathy. Of course, as you can see, the rates of these conditions went up dramatically after the anomalous health incident. Looking at those changes from before and after the AHI, you notice one common thread. Most of the changes are in subjective areas, stuff that is hard to measure with a blood or imaging test. After an AHI, the patients report more depression, more headache, more sleep dysfunction, more cognitive complaints, dizziness, and loss of balance.
Yeah, all of a sudden, I felt like I wasn't in control. I felt like I was, my emotions were everywhere. I was kind of getting really negative thought patterns and feelings and everything. And, I just kind of put it down to anxiety at the time. And
in other words, these individuals are suffering, but it's unclear from the testing why they are suffering.
So if you're a target, there's virtually nothing you can do.
I can disrupt an individual from the level of their cell to their system, and disrupt individuals on a variety of levels, from individuals all the way up to the social fabric. Target a specific individual, change or eliminate that individual with very little attribution and trace, and be able to leave prior to any attribution.
Who here actually feels like they are under surveillance pretty regularly? Everyone.
Dark energy weapons are here to stay, so we better figure out what's going on. We can't simply laugh this away anymore, because across the country, thousands of people now identify as targeted individuals. They claim they're being launched and tracked, harassed, manipulated, and attacked by unseen forces.
If you're targeting demonstrators, you make them suicidally depressed, and they don't care about demonstrating anymore because they're too upset. With one pulse frequency, you can just make people so suicidal they can't be bothered to act like a demonstrator anymore. All they want to do is sleep or lay in bed all day.
There's an infrastructure in place in the United States and worldwide that NSA has built in cooperation with other governments as well that intercepts basically every digital communication, every radio communication, every analog communication that it has sensors in place to detect.
It's called active attack.
We are in a new Cold War, and this is why countries are developing this. I mean, really developing this. And this is why all of the microwave transmitters are going up everywhere. Because somebody, if they wanted to, could use them for other effects. The system is up and running.
MIT was awarded a number of years ago to Woody Norris. This is 2005 or 2006. And that award was $500,000 for doing what's called acoustic heterodyning, being able to send a signal from 2 points into an individual so they literally hear a voice in their head that nobody around them hears.
I mean, voices are the easiest ones because all you have to do is stimulate the cochlea with a set resonant frequency. It's very easy. Voices are very easy. And it isn't people imagining voices, they physically hear them. You can physically make people hear voices, certain voices, and it can be any conversation, and it can be anybody you want to hear. It can be a soft, angelic voice, it can be a god, it can be something that scares you like a devil. It can be anything.
DARPA let a couple of contracts back in 2011, 2012 to the University of California for what's called electronic telepathy, being able to monitor the brain activity of human beings at a distance and determine what they're thinking. And then on a second contract, actually developing complex signals, being able to send them into the brain of another person, literally transmit a message. This is where the technology is today.
But the thing which felt really strange to me at the time was just how it seemed to come out of nowhere, and how it almost, I remember thinking and feeling at the time, it almost felt as though something was being done to me. But, you know, logically, I would have no conception of the idea of remote weapons or neuroweapons. I would have no conception of the idea that it could even be done, you know, that was even possible, because these weapons are designed as a war weapon, which is meant to, which is directly for the purpose of you not discovering that these weapons are being used on you and what they are being used for and the possibility that this is even being done. So that's when it became noticeable, but there's no guarantee that actually this technology was not being used on me prior to this in more subtle ways. Because I've heard it, I've read it, and this makes sense, that they introduce you onto these programs very incrementally so that you don't notice the effects of this technology, and then they slowly start to increase it over time. But it was all from kind of a spiritual experience, you know. I'm a very spiritual person, you know, and I believe there is spiritual oppression. I believe in spiritual oppression and demonics and these kind of things as well. This is just my personal belief, and so this was kind of the way that it was kind of explained away, because I was already a very spiritual person, and I was learning about these things which do exist, you know, or, you know, at least you know, from my experience and my research, you know, and on my path, they certainly exist. But anyway, so I was explaining everything away in terms of that this was God, you know, communicating to me, and that there was and all of a sudden God was coming into my life in a huge way, and I thought, this is great, you know, God's speaking to me, you know, and I found out later on that I was direct victim of something called voice of God technology, which is something the whistleblower Dr. Robert Duncan talks about, where they will someone who is spiritual or religious, they will use this voice of God to purposely think that God is speaking to them, so that the person is more manipulable. And it sounds like science fiction, but this technology exists, and Dr. Robert Duncan has gone on the record. I recommend looking up his testimony, or just typing in Dr. Robert Duncan, voice of God, and you'll see that this exists.
Probably the one that you've heard about most recently, most contemporaneously in the literature, is the possibility to use some form of directed energy to affect physiology peripherally and also to affect the physiology and health of the brain. Case in point here, U.S. Embassy personnel in Havana and possibly in China.
This commission has spoken of a long history of abuse of the human research subject. Although no one mentioned MKUltra today, President Clinton recently apologized for this. My young child and I have been used as non-consensual test subjects. We have been subjected to COINTELPRO-like stalking, remote neural monitoring, and electromagnetic torture, resulting in psychological and physical damage. And I won't go into the details of that because I have 4 pages written in here that is very similar to Connie's testimony. Please do not wait 70 years to investigate this.
This led me to going around in circles for many years, because I was kind of manipulable in that way, and you know, I felt like, of course, it was very scary as well that they were able to manipulate me in this way and kind of create these psyops around, you know, these things, making me think that, you know, these demonics were, you know, were around me all the time. And it was in that time when I discovered that this was actually the government that was potentially doing this. And I did a lot of research, and it was interesting because I'd been praying, you know, I'd been praying before that, you know, that I would discover what the source of this was, and I all of a sudden, you know, I had this kind of almost like this urge to like look at this keyword phrase on Google, and I found out all of this information which relayed to what was going on, and all of a sudden the penny started to drop. All of a sudden I started to make all of the connections between what had been going on in my life over the years and the symptoms that I was having, and correlating them to the symptoms that he was talking about.
I've worked on projects for the CIA, Justice Department, Department of Defense.
Is this the stuff, voices in the head and things like that?
Yes.
We've run into a few people that claim they got voices in their heads, they sleep inside tinfoil boxes, they do a lot of crazy things, it seems, but when they talk to us, they seem totally normal, they seem totally sane. Are these people crazy, or is the government doing this to them?
The government's doing this to them.
He's not even bothering to hide it.
They're called voice of God weapons.
Obviously, if members of the general public are not aware of the existence of this technology, which many of them are not, most of them are not, they will conclude that this person must be crazy. And as a result, they will recommend psychological evaluation for that person. You can see the way this is going to go, and the way it is going right now. As good people, helpless people that are being abused and tortured and enslaved and experimented upon in America today, American citizens cry out for help from their fellow Americans. And their fellow Americans say, why don't you take some Prozac because we think you're schizophrenic?
Many describe these waves moving through their bodies. Others speak of burning sensations and pressure in the head. Their sleep disruption, sudden anxiety, vibrations, and sharp pains they believe are connected to directed energy weapons.
And it's more of like an attack, and then other times it's more covert. And it's incredibly sophisticated. You know, these weapons have been around since the 1920s. You know, in terms of people, you know, the Tavistock Institute was doing this in the 1920s. You know, and the CIA through MKUltra in the 70s, and before that, you know, since the 50s. You know, and after the World War, II when they got this technology off the Nazis under Project Paperclip. So there's a long history in this, you know. Anyway, so, you know, this, you could say that there is, at times it's very strong, and then at other times it's more subtle, and it's kind of like it's working to create certain psychological operations, you know, underneath your radar, so to speak.
When this is a highly technical program, all of the symptoms are induced by a technology that is so sophisticated, it is horrifying beyond description.
The CIA claims torture works. Now, they're talking about physical torture. Now, no-touch torture is a whole new topic, a whole new category. Most people don't believe it's happening. You can be tortured in your own home. No one will believe you.
A computer multiplexer routes the voice signal of the sender through microwave towers to a very specific defined location, or cell. The receiver is located and tracked with pinpoint accuracy by their biometrics, DNA, iris, gait, facial recognition, and brainwave patterns. However, the receiver is not a cellular phone. It is the human brain.
This technology can also be used to manipulate the emotions of the target. It can induce fear, love, hate. It can cause you to be nervous. It can cause you to be confident. It can cause you to be depressed. It can cause you to be happy. It can cause you to feel emotion at any time by artificially inducing them.
What they do is they go and get your garbage in front of your house and get your DNA. And then once they've got your DNA sequence, they can then go to a supercomputer and they can biocode directed energy attacks that will only go and bioresonate with your body. So that three people can be standing right next to you and nobody's going to feel the harassment except you, because these signals are biocoded to your body's tuning only. And then they can send down V2K, they can send down any symptom they want, because they're in full control of the bioresonance of your bioenergy.
The frequency that's being used, at least in the most advanced forms, that hacks into the mind. Once that frequency hacks into the mind, it has access to the entire mind and the entire body. And so all it's doing is manipulating the electrical signals within the brain. And so by manipulating the electrical signals within the brain, it can make you feel stuff. It can make you feel sensations. It can make you do stuff. It can make you think stuff. What's happening normally is, from my understanding with the most advanced type of this technology, is they are manipulating your brain to be able to feel sensation in other parts of your body. And people will interpret that as a shock, let's say, to your leg. It feels as though someone's shooting you with energy or a frequency or a spark or electricity in your leg, but there's not actually anything being shot at your leg. What's happening is they are manipulating your brain, and then it is causing you, within the part of the brain that deals with touch and sense and feel, it is causing you to perceive that someone is shocking you in your leg, when that's not actually going on. It's just generating that feeling in your mind.
And let me give you an example that a lot of T.I.s go through. They will say something like, "I'm stabbing you in the back. Can you feel that?" And the T.I. will be like, "Yes, I feel that." And then they'll give it a score. Okay, how much misery and suffering did that cause? And all that's being done is being played back into the brain, you know, the central nervous system. It's not an actual physical touch. There was no harm being done in terms of the physicality of the individual, but they'll go through these like 3 a day different tortures. Okay, we're gassing your eyes with tear gas, and you know, their eyes will actually tear up. There will be a response and they'll itch and they can't see, but this is all done through the brain. It's the brain's reaction to these tortures that they're playing back to them.
So the brain feels the pain as if it's real.
That's right. We call it no-touch torture, and so the assumption for most human beings, well, if I don't see blood or mutilation, it can't be that bad. Well, what the brain perceives is far worse than that. In fact, the pains are amplified, sensitized, and are extremely vulnerable to these circuits being stimulated. Torture itself, it's a high stress level. So
Yeah.
one of the objectives of torture is to keep them at maximum pain and the highest stress levels possible.
Propaganda is all around us, and surveillance is nothing new. How much do we really know about what's possible today, given recent scientific breakthroughs?
Over periods of time, 24/7, even when I'm sleeping, I'm feeling the triangulation, from the microwaves in terms of that they're able to not just locate you, but also not just track you, in your physical location. Pains in different areas of my body through directed energy weapons or the microwave beams. They've made me, there was a real period where I went through where I had severe body anxiety, but I could not see it at the time because they're creating all of these directed energy weapon effects around my body like they were. And of course, I do so much research about it. Again, I was chasing my own tail and I was going around in circles, and I would think distinct things that started happening to me was I also started getting severe pulsating headaches and real head pressure. I would have this horrible, like fuzzy feeling in my head, this horrible head pressure, this horrible cloudy feeling in my head, this real kind of feeling that my head was like scrunched up at the front. And yeah, it was horrible, and I would go through severe periods of that, and I still get that now today. And I can feel it when the weapons attacks start coming into specific areas, and I can feel the headache and the pressure getting more. But I also get the headaches just from the remote neural monitoring, just from the tracking and the triangulation that it's able to do on the different points in and around the head, because they're doing that 24/7.
When did you first experience being stalked and targeted like this?
The first time I experienced it is when I was walking down the road. People started to follow me.
Because if you're a TI, you're in an assassination program.
It's like a worst nightmare that you end up waking up from.
Trying to explain this in a way that's understandable.
Beyond point one is unsafe.
I've got stuff in my body because I've had beeps going off inside my head.
Any normal person would go, are you all right? Do you know what I mean? Are you sure that you're feeling all right? Because you're talking crazy.
And a community has formed.
We're not having a group hallucination. This is actually something that's happening.
They call themselves targeted individuals.
This is a death camp. This is a concentration camp.
I will expose you one day. I don't care who you are or who you think you are or who you're connected to.
People don't even realise. People will never realise until it's too late.
You said it before when we were speaking on the phone, that the truth movement is gaining ground, and you've seen that, and that inspired you to hopefully get back involved again, I hope, Dave. If a TI on his own as an individual approaches authority, they're easy to dismiss, but if there's multiples of them, it's a lot more difficult.
At this stage, we've heard a lot of talk about what a targeted individual is. I mean, everyone's heard someone make a string of unbelievable statements like that, but when you hear that person say it, and then you look around and you're in a room with 60 other people all nodding in agreement, that is a weird feeling.
It can have a big effect on me psychologically. It has had a big effect on me psychologically. That people can be that cruel. People can be that mean that they can do this to not just me, but millions of people around the world now. Up to 3 million or more, according to whistleblower Richard Whitehouse's predictions. One of the things they've done is they've created isolation in me. So they've tried to isolate me from my family and friends by making me have problems with my family, like inside. Again, they know how to trigger and play with someone's ego. Getting severe stimulation via the electromagnetics, which has given me so much energy that I can't actually sleep. I'm generally feeling really foggy and just lousy, so I can't sleep. There are lots of ways that they can cause sleep deprivation. They can stimulate your brain. They can, but it all revolves around making you feel really uncomfortable and either on edge or energetic to the point that you can't sleep because of these reasons. I've had shortness of breath and choking sensations. So this is one of the, for me, one of the most worst one out of a lot of them, because it's everyone's, you would think it would be a right to breathe, and to breathe without interference, without something or someone, without something interfering with your breathing processes. And yet I've had these directed energy weapons blasted into my neck more times than I care to even recall or mention, where all of a sudden you just can't breathe. You're literally just choking for breath. It's like that, you know, trying to breathe, you know. And they do the same to your chest as well, where your chest gets really tight, or they direct some directed energy weapon into your chest. They can also they also do directed energy weapon attacks into many different areas of the body, to make you uncomfortable, or to make you paranoid about your health, to make you feel anxiety about your health. They also can do these really high frequency shots into different parts of your body, where it feels as though you're being stabbed by a pin or being stung by a bee. And many other people have reported this as well. And you know, it can be anywhere, and they often do it in your delicate eyes, organs like your eyes and, you know, your ears. And I have blocked ears as well, and, like, you know, a bit of an issue after a thing. And they do them into the point where my ears are really sensitive. You know, we know from 31 scientists who've come out now and said this, 31 doctors who've come out and said these abuses are real and they're going on, and 4 medical doctors who've come out and said that these abuses are real. You know, do your research and you'll find out. 2 psychiatrists have come out and said this is real. This is getting exposed. But anyway.
Targeted individuals don't all share the exact same stories, but many of their testimonies follow a similar pattern. They feel isolated. They feel watched. They feel threatened by something they can't see. And they feel their minds, their bodies, and their sleep is under attack.
So who are they?
Don't even know if it's people. I just know. How could I know? I just know that there is electromagnetic radiation being beamed at me, and I'm followed.
It felt important to see if medical professionals were aware of the targeting phenomenon. So I arranged to speak to clinical psychologist Professor Philippa Garrity. A targeted individual is someone who believes that they're being stalked by the government. They believe that they're being mind-controlled. If someone came to you with these beliefs, what would your professional opinion be about what was going on?
Well, I would have a conversation with them first, get as broad a picture as possible, understand when these ideas started and the context in which they started.
What are some of the common symptoms of someone who's experiencing psychosis and delusions?
So one set of experiences is hearing voices, or experience your thoughts as no longer private. And then there's a constellation of beliefs which may occur. And one set of beliefs may be beliefs that people are wanting to harm you.
A lot of the people we've met have actually found it a really reassuring, positive experience to see lists of the symptoms they've experienced online.
Human beings are social beings, and we seek, you know, a social support and a world in which we're understood. And one of the most difficult things for people is that they can feel very alone and very isolated and very frightened. So it's a good thing to find people who share those experiences and can provide understanding and support. The question is whether then that is a group who can help you, or whether it does something slightly different of reinforcing a very high level of preoccupation.
As society does become more of a surveillance state, is it more difficult to distinguish people who have delusions and people who are actually telling the truth?
The question of truth or falsity can be a bit misleading, because do I know whether I'm being subject to surveillance? You know, how would I know? And how would I judge that ultimately? So I don't think it is for mental health professionals or the world in general to force people to change their views of what's happening. But I do think it's for us to help people who are in distress.
The harmful effects it have. The government knows all about this. This is, you know, it's undeniable that microwaves can create these debilitating effects. But anyway, they create these hot flashes, and, you know, 1 minute you can be absolutely fine, 1 second you can be fine, and the next minute you feel it come in, and you are burning. You know, you are just so overwhelmingly hot. And they can also create the cold flushes as well, where you get very, very cold all of a sudden. And they're able to do that, through the microwave technology. And it's very uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable when you get these hot flashes, these overwhelmingly hot flashes out of nowhere. They can make you itch, and they've done this to me many, many times, where I just have severe itching in, like in certain parts of my body. A lot of it is around this area or this side of the head, where a lot of it comes in very strong, but also like my elbows and my hands, in other areas of my body, where they create these sometimes it's like it sustains, like a sustaining itch, and other times it's more like just a random itch, or almost like a side effect of the general microwave energy coming into the body. But it's
And who is responsible for this? Through overwhelming evidence from the scientific, medical, legal professionals from around the globe, all victims of electronic terrorism need to stay calm and patiently, meticulously put together their evidence on electronic intrusion. We are going to court.
These people are suffering, and we now realize that once we eliminate possible psychological issues, what we're left with is something that's already out of control.
And many of the victims are complaining of the same things. All of these symptoms, the victims are complaining about. These are symptoms across the board. And okay, everyone's targeting varies a little bit, but this is a global program, and we can see this from the symptoms that are going on. I remember when this first happened to me, I had a huge sensitivity to light, and I was in Australia at the time, and I was so sensitive to light that I just, it was hurting my eyes, and I did everything on the spiritual level to clean myself, to make sure that this wasn't an attachment or something, something demonic, or like some kind of entity or being that was affecting me, and for people hearing me speak like this, I'm speaking like this because I'm a very spiritual individual, so this is my perspective. But if you are hearing this and you're not spiritual, then just hear me out. This is my perspective, and it shows how I gradually came through this and eliminated everything as well. This is another thing that would traditionally be called mental illness, and is a symptom probably, or could be a symptom of mental illness, but this is something they're also able to do via the technology, which is just another example of how they use that technology and disguise it and do things in the same way that a mental illness would have, that would come out from a mental illness, that would be part of a mental illness, so to speak. The first is that they are doing this as part of the big weapons experimentation program in order to test these weapons on innocent civilians. Basically, the US government and the British government have a long history of doing this, testing weapons on civilians without their consent, and without paying for it or letting them know, without letting them know that they're testing these weapons. So they've always done this, so this is nothing new. Any nanotech that may have been, that may be in my body, that may be influenced, that may be being used to amplify this technology, they can do this without, and I believe that they are doing this without, but there may also be some additional evidence via nanotechnology in my body, which they have various ways that they can actually get into the body.
There is an online community whose members believe that they're being abused as part of a mass harassment campaign known as gang stalking. In general, victims of gang stalking believe that someone is purposefully targeting them for some reason. That may sound vague, but the truth is, even they themselves don't always claim to know who is targeting them or why. Some believe that it's all a part of a vast government surveillance experiment, while others think that they're being watched by aliens or demonic creatures. People who genuinely believe they are the victims of gang stalking call themselves targeted individuals, and these people lead horribly paranoid lives. Most are loners who feel that anyone who tries to get close to them is in on the conspiracy, and this causes them to retreat online to forums and message boards where other like-minded individuals share in their delusions. These groups are arguably some of the most distrustful, disorganized, fractured, and potentially dangerous communities active right now. And today we're going to be taking a look at targeted individuals, their beliefs, their supposed evidence for those beliefs, and why their groups are gaining new members every single day.
As Christians, we need to look deeper than just the technology. The Bible tells us that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, rulers of darkness, and spiritual wickedness in high places. We understand that the battle for the mind has always been spiritual. Fear is a weapon, confusion is a weapon, and isolation is a death trap.
For most TIs, securing their entire home is too costly, so they'll select a single room, usually a bedroom, bathroom, or office, to turn into a safe room where they can sleep and rest with at least some level of comfort. Beyond tracking, they're also very concerned with directed energy weapons, DWs, which they believe can be used to physically harm them. Energy weapons are a real thing that are being developed and tested by the US government for self-defense purposes against drone and missile attacks. But targeted individuals may disagree on everything except what to call themselves. But there's another belief that is almost universally accepted within the community. Once you've been targeted, they'll never be set free. They believe that their lives are effectively over because they can never be normal again. Someone will always be watching and waiting to strike at them the moment their guard is down. Their own brains are turning against them, and there is nothing they can do to stop it from happening. Unsurprisingly, this core belief means that most TIs live an increasingly stressful life, and this can lead to some very serious health risks.
It seems that these New Age weapons, designed to create chaos, want to accomplish the same things evil has been focused on for centuries. These weapons formed against us want to torture us, isolate us, and ultimately destroy us, stealing our sleep, our sanity, and our peace. Directed energy weapons may be the modern term people are using, but the war against the mind is ancient. The tools may change, but the strategy stays the same.
TIs are also unsurprisingly prone to depression, anxiety, and a whole host of other mental conditions. TIs often self-report suicidal thoughts as a final solution to them. As technology advances and the line between science fiction and reality continues to blur, conspiracies like gang stalking have become more plausible. A century ago, the concept of energy weapons and tracking devices the size of a coin was just pure fantasy, but now they are in use throughout the world. For some people, the mere existence of these devices ensure that they will be misused against the general public.
Overwhelm the person, isolate the person, confuse the person, make them afraid, and make them believe there is no way out. If you believe you're being targeted, don't isolate yourself. Don't let fear become your master. Talk to someone you trust. Seek medical help if it's needed. Pray and stay grounded. Remember that no weapon or technology is greater than Jesus Christ. If you give up, they win. If you stay silent, they win. And if you don't do everything in your power to defeat this weapon that has been formed against you, they win again. Part of defeating this weapon is understanding what it is. That's why I'm making these videos. Somebody very close to me is dealing with this thing right now, but she's not giving up. Together, all of us can win this war. But first, we need to understand its strategy. Pray, stay safe, and continue to message me with your questions and comments. Until next time.